All right, so good morning. And today we're going to get started in Supta Baddha Konasana. So lying flat, that will be the default. But if you really want a block under the shoulders, you could do that. All right. Coming onto your mat. Feet together, knees out to the side. Taking your time if your hips need a little encouragement before you get down there on the floor. And then as you're ready, making your way to the floor. So the default is being flat, but if you really want that block under the shoulders, you feel like you need a little extra upper back opening, upper chest opening, go ahead and do that. Nice deep inhale and a long exhale out the mouth. Maybe doing that 2 or 3 times. Letting go of whatever you don't need for the next hour. Keep staying there, breathing. And then just breathing deeply and evenly. Feeling the back of the pelvis there on the floor. Balancing on the right and the left sides. Drawing your breath all the way down into the lower belly. Exhale, letting the back of that pelvis get a little heavier into the floor. The easeful kind of heaviness as opposed to the burdensome, collapsing kind. And then similarly feeling those wide shoulder blades across the upper back. Letting that upper back rest into the floor. And sending the breath out through those inner thighs, out the knees. Starting to radiate out from the center. And sending that breath down through the sitting bones toward the opposite wall, up through the top of the head, and then maybe up through the arms, breathing those arms up overhead. And you can hold there, maybe breathing them back down if you want a little bit more movement. And so we'll take a few breaths here. Radiating out with our breath, expanding our body so you can be moving the arms or holding them somewhere. Maybe you're changing the pattern of those circling arms a little bit. And then we will finish here, letting yourself land somewhere for a few more breaths. And then sliding the legs out to straight. Big stretch fingertips to heels. Making your way up, and we'll take a short forward bend with those legs straight out in front. Maybe pushing with the arms from behind, not straining to get a deep Paschimottanasana pose, just lengthening the back of the legs, lengthening the spine, holding into the hip joints. And coming up. And let's sit in Sukhasana with the crossed legs. Using those arms alongside, a little lift up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. And slowly release with the arms. Letting the hands rest on the knees, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders. And then feeling that sacrum broad and level across the back wall, across those shoulder blades, broad and level like when we were lying on the floor. So we still have our lengthen up the center line, but feeling a little bit more width. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Breathing those arms up overhead. Let's cactus them down, squeezing into the upper back, lifting the chest a little. And then lengthening back up to bring the arms down. Let's do that twice more. Breathing the arms up. And then pulling the elbows down, but still lots of lift up through the center. Lengthening back up. And then a wide reach down. We'll do that once more. Keeping that breath going. And finishing with that, changing the cross of the legs. And let's come forward and over, breathing into the back of the body. If anything needs a little shifting, doing that. And then coming up, unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae, back up on top of the sitting bones, everything lands in place. And then we will come around to downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. So hip distance apart or extra wide with the feet, walking the dog or anything else you want to do. So keep working with your downward facing dog. And then finishing up with whatever you're doing to find the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. And let's lengthen forward to the plank, pulling those shoulder blades into the upper back a little like the cactus arms. And as we're holding here a few breaths, let's think about those arms we did. Breathing the arms up the sides and long over the top of the head. Pulling those elbows back in the cactus arms. Extending the arms back out. Big wide reach back down the side. And let's set the knees down. Take a little pull back into child's pose. And lifting up the base of the wrist on the spider fingers there, giving that a little counter flex. And then sliding out onto our stomach into the Sphinx. Pulling back with the elbows and also pulling back with the hands. So really engage the hands into the floor. They're not just kind of hanging out there. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. Maybe a little more width across that upper back. Maybe a little more width across the back of the sacrum. And then calm down. Big breath, peeling ourselves back up to downward facing dog. Be a little rippling along the way. And there we are. And then going through the Vinyasa inversion or not. And then we're all being downward facing dog for one more breath. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into that concave back, halfway up. Folding over. Another breath here, drawing up through the legs, pouring down through the top of the head. Coming up to standing, big front body yawn. And reaching the arms wide, pressing them down long through the top of the head. And then let's come back over, lifting those arms up and guiding over. Concave back, halfway up, folding over. Let's step back with the left leg so we're in the right lunge. And nice strong line, top of the head to the left foot. And see if you can lighten up on the fingers. And then bring the arms out wide to the side in the airplane arms. And really press up with the back of the arms to help stabilize you here. Or else you can keep your left hand on the floor and just lift the right arm. And then as we come down, twisting, bringing the left hand down, reaching the right arm up. And a big reach around with that right arm, stepping back to the plank, through the Vinyasa or not. So I went for the right to upward facing dog Vinyasa there. Downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching down through the left heel. And a big inhale and exhale through to the lunge, right lunge again. And this time we'll bring our left knee down, coming up in Anjayasana, the kneeling lunge. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then make sure you don't have your belly kind of slumped onto your right thigh. Lifting up as much as you can there. If you're trying to make room in the front of the right thigh or front of the right hip joint. And then we'll circle those arms all the way around and back up overhead. Namaste in front. And then stepping forward. Into the concave, back halfway up. Folding over. Let's step back right away with the right leg. Taking a few breaths, long, strong lunge. And then maybe lightening up on those fingertips. And airplane arms. Pressing those arms out so they're helping you a little there, or maybe a lot. And if this isn't working, you can just put the right arm down and keep reaching wide with the left. And then we will twist to the left, bringing the right hand down, left arm up. And a big reach around with the left arm. Stepping back to the plank, Vinyasa or not. And downward facing dog. And then lifting that left leg up, reaching through the heel, reaching through the right heel. I always have to remind myself pretty much every single time to reach through that standing leg, heel into the floor, not let it come up. Through to the lunge. And then bring that right knee down, coming up in Anjayasana. And then maybe you came part way up, which I did here. Maybe that is the most for the flexibility you have, but see if there's a little more. Tailbone tucks a little bit more under, lift up a little more in the abdominal muscles, get out of that left hip joint a little. And circling the arms all the way back up overhead. And namaste in front. Namaste into the floor, stepping forward into the concave back, and then we're going to make our way back to downward facing dog. Jumping or stepping back, vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. And then let's all take about a step forward and then do the wide legs out near the edge of the mat. If you're taller, maybe those little toes are right at the edge of the mat. If you're not taller, maybe a little inside. All right, so here we are. And we're going to see if we can take that left hand to the right ankle or shin. So really lift back into the legs and reaching across with the left hand for the right shin, or not. Connecting your right hand there to the left heel into the floor. Coming back to the center. Let's try the left. Reaching under with the right hand for the left ankle or shin. Feeling that left hand connect to the right heel. And putting that right hand back. Let's come down, sitting back in child's pose. And so when we take the feet a little closer to the hands and a little wider, that makes that position a little bit more accessible. If we do it again today, which we might, and you want to make it more challenging, do the conventional hip distance apart downward facing dog in your usual extended length, and that will make it more challenging. Meanwhile, here in child's pose. Inhale and exhale. And then tucking those toes under, rolling up onto your feet, straightening the legs toward the back of the mat here in our forward bend. And then coming up to standing, big front body yawn. Lifting a little more. And pressing those arms down long through the top of the head. Let's take a side bend up and over. Let's see, I'm not the mirror here, but we're doing one side and then the other. Bringing the right arm up and over, leaning out into the right outer. And a big lift through the top of the head, bringing that right arm down. Left arm up and over. Lifting up. And let's do that again. Right arm up and over. This time we'll do the ballet arms, bringing that left arm up, a little roundedness, fingertip to fingertip, trying to pull those elbows wide and open, trying to breathe deeply. And then coming up, both arms up overhead, hands might join in namaste for a moment up there, and then bringing the arms down. Other side. Left arm coming up and over, leaning out into the left outer hand. And reaching along with the right arm, bringing it up, fingertip to fingertip, and then to squinch your elbows in, a little width and space there. Breathing. Coming up, bringing those fingertips and maybe all the way the whole hand together, pressing the arms down. Let's circle the shoulders up the front, down the back, and then twice more. Other direction. One more front to the back, big lift up, front body yawn, and diving over. Concave back halfway up, folding over, walking out to downward facing dog, Vinyasa or and let's lift the right leg up. Reaching long through the right heel, reaching down through the left dog at the high fire height. So reaching down through the back of that left leg gets even more important here. You might feel a little more on that left inner thigh as well. And then through to the lunge. And similar to what we did before, let's airplane to a diagonal in the lunge. And then next step, maybe coming up, pressing the backs of the arms away to bring you up and bringing the arms up overhead. Namaste in front, worry down into the floor. Bringing that left knee down. Coming up in Anjayasana. A little more lift maybe of that pelvis out of the right hip joint. And then we're going to hinge back, straightening the right leg. Now we are folding into that right hip joint. Couple more breaths here. And then coming part way forward, and we're going to swivel on that left knee to 90 degrees. Walk the right foot out, maybe bringing it a little toward the left front corner of your mat so that right leg's not behind the line of the hip. Standing right up on top of that left leg. Arms out to the side. So feeling that strength from those airplane flat backs here, so we're not just kind of hanging out. As we side bend up and over to the right. Press that tailbone a little forward. Roll that right hip out a little more. And then a big reach around will come down and inside that right leg. So going where you can go, making this a stretchy thing that works for you. Maybe your hands are further back. Maybe they're more out towards your foot. You can sort of pull back if you want, flexing the right toes, or we'll pull back, feeling similar to what we did in that runner's stretch just a few moments ago. And sort of making your way out of this to all fours, get your right leg. Coming onto all fours for a moment. Deep breath. And then continuing to the plank, through a Vinyasa, downward facing dog. And here we are in downward facing dog, and we'll go on to the left, lifting the left leg up, reaching that right heel down. Dog at the high fire hydrant, feeling that right leg again. What do you need to do to keep that stable and not let the heel wane out? And through to the lunge. And then airplane arms again here, reaching out wide on a long diagonal. And coming up to standing, using the press back of the arms to help you, and then bringing those arms up overhead. And namaste, pouring down into the floor, bringing the right knee down, coming up in Anjayasana, trying to lift a little out of that left hip joint. And then bringing the arms down and hinging back. Now we're folding into that left hip joint, pulling the toes back, pulling the knee back. And then shifting a little forward to swivel on your right knee. And usually if you take your left leg out right where it is, it's going to be behind the line of the hip. So bringing that left heel forward and be kind of up at the corner of the right corner of the mat. And standing right up on top of that right leg. Long through the top of the head, reaching wide with the arms. Feeling that strength and lift through the back. And then we'll side bend up and over to the left toward the straight leg. Varigasana, the gate pose. Press forward with the tailbone. We like to kind of get tired and sit back here sometimes. Pressing forward, rotate that left leg out a little more. Keep breathing. And then a big reach around with that right arm. Coming down and inside. Finding a good spot for yourself. So this is one of those things that's kind of more a yoga stretch than a yoga pose. So you have your hands closer to your right leg, maybe closer to the left, sinking in. You can also flex that left foot and do a little pull back feeling, sort of a diagonal version of that runner's stretch we were doing. Lengthening and smoothing that breath again. And then coming up, and we'll just bring our left leg around, coming onto all fours. And we're just pausing here, simple pose, but really be there. And we are going to do that reaching for the opposite leg in downward facing dog again. So you can go through a vinyasa or not, just being a judge of how your wrists and shoulders are doing. All right, and here we are in downward facing dog. More challenging, just stay here in downward facing dog and reach. We're going to reach for the left side first, right hand to the left ankle. Or making it a little more accessible by stepping a little forward and or by stepping those feet a little wider apart. All right, so I'm just using the step forward adjustment, and we'll hope for the best. Let's reach that right hand for the left leg, a little twisting to the left, and then feeling that anchoring connection of the left hand and the right heel into the floor, or toward the floor at least. And then putting that right hand back. Deep breath, other side, left hand reaching for the right leg. And feeling that anchored into the floor connection of the right hand to the left heel. And putting that left hand back, downward facing dog, coming down, sitting back in child's pose, maybe doing the spider fingers, lifting up the base of the wrist, does a little flex there, contracts the palm of the hand. It's a good counter pose for the wrist. And then settling back into child's pose. And let's come forward onto our stomach. Going into that Sphinx, getting some space. Getting everything centered, front of the body lengthened along the floor. And then coming down, bringing the arms back to the cobra position. So don't do it with the hands, do it first with the elbows squeeze in and do a pull back long and parallel to the floor, and then set the hands down. And let's take a small cobra, just going where you can go here. And then lengthening down. And as we come down, nose hovering above the floor, lifting the legs up. They might not lift far, just lift. And then as the legs start down, we're going to lift up with the upper body again in the small cobra. And as that small cobra starts to lengthen down, the legs start to lift. So we're moving like in a slow motion, small rocking action. The upper body comes up, the legs go down. As the upper body goes down, the legs come up. Let's try this 2 or 3 more times. It's all right if it starts to get smaller. Keep breathing. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And maybe 2 breaths on each half. I think that's about enough of this. And letting everything soften. Hands, forehead rests on the hands, taking a few breaths, melting across the back of the body, finding them wide across the upper back, even wide across the sacrum once again. And let's peel ourselves up. Couple of ripples along the way. And downward facing dog. Through a vinyasa or not. And let's lift our right leg up. Reaching long through both heels. Reaching longer through both heels. One more reaching longerness. And then through to the lunge. And we will come up in the warrior number 2. Grounding the left heel. You can always put that right hand onto the knee to help you up. And then that right hand can also kind of come inside and encourage that right knee to stay tracking over the foot. Reach with the left fingertips, reach with the right inner thigh to the inner knee to the center of the foot. Wide arms, feeling that flat airplaneness. Lots of strength in the upper body. Every breath renews your presence, deepens you into the pose. And then we're going to flat back here. So really feel a little more pull with the left arm as we tilt over. So maybe it's just here. Maybe you can go lower. I'm being a good, bad example. My lunge is coming up. Try to keep that right sitting bone going down. Flattening out or diagonally out. Pressing the back of the arms, pressing up with the upper back against the ceiling. And I'm going to bring the right hand to the floor in the center. Twist left toward the back leg. And then maybe pull a little deeper into the lunge on the right. And then just bring the left hand down, turn the right foot to parallel, wide leg forward bend. Breathing here, smoothing things out. And then lengthening out. We'll take a twist here to the right toward the front of the mat. And if you want to try to go a little lower, you can bend that right, or bend the left arm. And then coming back to the center. And we will come up to standing, big front body yawn. Arms to parallel, and we'll rotate the right leg out. So remember, I'm not the mirror. Rotating the right leg toward the front of the mat. Both legs straight. Let's take a side bend up the right side. And hinging over into the triangle. Trikonasana. Oh, look, it's those airplane arms again. Wide and flat against the wall behind us. And then just reaching with that left arm over the ear and pulling down to the lunge. Stepping back through the vinyasa or not, and downward facing dog, maybe taking a child's pose in there somewhere. And then we'll do all of that around to the left. All right, here we are in downward facing dog. And we will lift our left leg up, reaching the right heel into the floor, reaching the left leg up. Reaching a little more, really feeling that three-legged dog. And then just a little more. Through to the lunge, coming up in the warrior number 2 on the left. Making sure that left knee is tracking over the foot. Reach back with the right fingertips, trying to be in the center with the torso. Feeling a little bit of extra airplane arm and upper back strength maybe, and breathing. All right, here we go. Coming over in a flat back. Feeling a little extra pull through the right arm because we like to shift toward the left leg as we do this. And then also try not to let that left leg straighten. But on the other hand, doing what you need to do. So just coming over as far as you can. You might get deeper as we continue to breathe, maybe not. Feeling that press up from the arms, from that upper back, from the And then we'll twist to the right, bringing the left hand down, twisting right towards your back leg. And then maybe you can pull a little more into that lunge with the left leg. And bringing the right arm down, straighten the left leg, turning the feet to parallel. Wide leg forward bend. Breathing deeply, smoothing things out. Enjoying simple familiarity with the shape, but without taking it for granted, and just kind of being here mindlessly. And then lengthen out a little, take a twist to the left toward the front leg, the opposite direction that we were just doing. Really sinking that right shoulder down lower. Bring the left hand down. And then coming up to standing, big front body. And pressing those arms down. And then we'll rotate out the left leg, the leg toward the front of the mat. Make both legs straight there and side bend, left arm. And hinging over into the triangle. There's those wide airplane arms again. And then really listening to your own breath inside. Every breath tells you a little bit of something. Maybe your conscious mind doesn't understand what it is, but your body might. So breathing here, letting the body and the breath talk to each other. And then reaching that right arm long over the ear. And pulling down to the lunge. Stepping back to the plank, Vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. And as we're in that downward facing dog, you're feeling a little weary. You're noticing what feels the most weary, what is trying to draw you to that child's pose in the floor the most. Is it your body, maybe, or your mind, as it often actually is, or maybe it's your breath though, because sometimes we just get tired, it gets hard to breathe, we need to come to a neutral shape. Maybe all those three elements can combine to keep you here for 2 or 3 more breaths. All of them putting in whatever energy they have left. And then we'll all come down to child's pose. And warming up for a moment. So let's see. Well, let's do the pigeon. So if you do not want to do the pigeon and would like something else, come down onto the floor, and then you can do the block under the sacrum for, like 12, 16 breaths or so. And then do the figure 4 on each side for like 8 or 10 breaths. You can choose your own number of breaths there. So doing the block under the sacrum and then the figure 4, those two elements are essentially the pigeon pose. Meanwhile, pigeons, let's take the low road unless you really want to take the high road up there. And we will bring the right leg forward, maybe using a block under the hip. You can also use the sitting to the side version. Taking a few breaths in that cobra action. And then coming forward and over, sleeping pigeon. And then coming out of the pigeon, and we will go to the other side. Bringing the left leg forward. And then taking a few breaths in that cobra action. And coming forward and then coming up out of the pigeon. And we will all make our way down to the floor to Shavasana. Oh, melting into the floor. Take a few breaths, letting yourself melt. And then you can consider if there's some other little thing you need to do before settling into Shavasana. But very often, turns out if we just soften, just accept the support of the floor, we don't really need anything else. And maybe taking that exhale out the mouth again. That felt good. You can do it another 1 or 2 times. Clearing things out, a letting go breath. When we finish with that, we're breathing deeply and evenly through the nose. The nervous system soothing breath, a calming breath. And then as we start to perhaps lengthen the exhale, particularly out, a breath that sinks us in, draws us a little deeper inside ourselves. And then breathing back into your body. Moving the fingers and toes, circling the wrists and ankles. Stretching the arms up overhead. And bending the knees to make your way gently up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming. Let me get the recording here.